For all the draft watchers and prospect fans, I wanted to turn your attention over to today's Frölunda HC hockey game against the Malmö Redhawks. Frölunda ended up winning 4-1. And this was quite the intriguing contest because it's the final game of Frölunda HC's regular season in 2025-2026. They finish the regular season in the second overall spot, with a few losses to end off the year. However, they are still one of the best teams in the Swedish Hockey League, and heading into the playoffs, all eyes are going to be on one Ivar Stenberg to show off and improve his draft stock. Ladies and gentlemen, Ivar Stenberg's regular season in the 25-26 campaign has just concluded, and this video serves as a benchmark to go over all the numbers and how things finished off for the young Swede. Stenberg, of course, is a projected top prospect in the 2026 NHL Entry Draft. Right now, his consolidated ranking is actually number 1. He is ranked first overall by Elite Prospects, by Cam Robinson, by the Hockey News' Tony Ferrari. You also have Daily Faceoff and NHL Central Scouting ranking him as number 1, although the latter has him as the first European skater. Sam Constantino has Stenberg at 1, so does Jason Bukala and Smot Scouting. Make no mistake about it, Stenberg is the consolidated number 1 at this point, followed closely by Gavin McKenna, Keaton Verhoff, and Chase Reed. This has been a season for the ages for the young Stenberg, who finishes off his regular season in the SHL with 33 points in 43 games played. Now, obviously you can look at Gavin McKenna or any of these other guys in the other leagues and say, oh, but they're way over a point per game. Stenberg plays in arguably the most difficult league to get drafted out of outside of the KHL. He's in the top pro men's league in Sweden, and he's been 18 for the majority of the year. Young guys just don't simply get points in the top pro men's league of their countries, usually. But Stenberg went out there and produced at a pretty successful rate. Add on a 10-point in 7-game showing at the World Juniors, and you have a legitimate first overall caliber prospect. Take a look at World Junior Crankings, who went out there and posted this earlier on Twitter. Ivar Stenberg's regular season has come to a close. 43 games, 11 goals, 22 assists, and 33 points. His .77 points per game is second all-time amongst draft-eligible 18-year-olds in the SHL. He ended a bit cold, but his season was absolutely incredible. Now, I know what you might be thinking. If you're a Vancouver Canucks fan, looking at the numbers and trying to see where Stenberg ranks, the question is, he didn't catch the Sedins. Yes, that is technically true. He had a better points per game than Henrik, but not Daniel. If you take a look at those specific numbers, this is SHL history under 19. You'll see that the overall top point producer in the league was Daniel Sedin, who had 42 points in 50 games played. Stenberg only had 43 games played, but he had 33 points. He's already gone out there and bested out some of the top names out of the Swedish Hockey League's past. Elias Lindholm, even Anton Frondell, whose 18-year-old season was also this season. Then you have some other pretty notable names of the past like Nicholas Backstrom, Marco Kasper. If you take a look at points per game, you will see that the number 1 overall point per game guy for 18-year-olds in the SHL was Tomas Sandstrom, who was over a point per game back in the 80s. Marcus Naslund was a flat point per game guy. And then you have William Nylander, who in his draft +1 was able to be slightly under a point per game with 20 points in 21 games. Daniel Sedin is over here at the 20th overall spot. Again, we can discount all these guys who had 1 game and 1 point over the years. But Daniel Sedin's over here. Stenberg is slightly underneath him, although Stenberg did outscore some pretty notable seasons from Henrik Sedin. Kevin Fiala, Elias Lindholm, and others. So, all's that to say is that Ivar Stenberg is looking to have some pretty good company. The Sedins and Naslin overtaking Anton Frondell, who was a 3rd overall pick last year. There's a lot to like out of this guy. World Junior Crankings went out there and talked about this as well. Dave Hall replied, "Oh, the stat watchers are going to eat this one up." Essentially indicating that, oh yeah, people who only look at the stats, who only look at the points in the games played and whatever, are going to have a field day with the fact that Stenberg was not able to catch the Sedins, and that he ended off a bit cold. World Junior Cranking says, "Yep, I will say, Stenberg has had some very impressive solo efforts that didn't result in points in his last few games." If you take a look at Stenberg and his game log, he's only gotten 3 points in his last 10 games and 1 point in his last 5. So things definitely did take a more unproductive end towards this middle part of the season here. He had 1 point just in that Djurgården game on Thursday, but 0 points against Leksand, 0 points against Timrå, against Regla, 0 points against Luleå, 0 points against Brynäs and Skellefteå AIK. So it hasn't necessarily been a productive, let's say, past 2 weeks or so for Ivar Stenberg. And if you take a look at the game today against Malmö, let's look at the overall statistics here. Do we have any Stenberg points? No, we do not. No goals and no assists. So yet another pointless game for the young Swede. That's okay. He's playing in the top pro men's league in Sweden, and heading into the playoffs, he's going to be a primary contributor on one of the best teams in the league. If you take a look at Stenberg and his overall point production compared to his teammates, you will see here that Stenberg was one of the top 5 guys in points. They're a pretty stacked team, that Frölunda Hockey Club. Max Lindholm, Arttu Ruotsalainen, and Jiri Innala were able to get more points up front. Henrik Tomarnes, former Vancouver Canucks prospect, was a top defense point scorer. That's a really interesting connection there. Remember Hank Tomarne? A lot of people in Canucks Nation thought this guy was going to be something at the NHL level, but he ended up maxing out mostly as just a Utica Comet after being a pretty good defenseman in the SHL. But he had spent a whole bunch of years going around to the Swiss League. He was productive over there. He went back over to Sweden, and now he's the top producer for Frölunda Hockey Club once again, alongside of Ivar Stenberg. Let's go back over to the Twitter thread and read, "McKenna," Jerry D. Strong said, "is already here. Most Europeans, especially those from the Scandinavian countries, need a few years to acclimatize to North America and the NHL. So if you want a quick rebuild or start, pick someone already here." Honestly, that's a pretty blinded point of view. I don't think that really applies to Stenberg. He's going to be ready. He's going to be good enough. He's going to be fine. 22 assists and 33 points, you say? Ooh, okay. Getting that Sedinery connection fully established in there. Him or McKenna? TJ Ginlafan asks. Consensus seems to be Gavin now, but they're still neck and neck. No idea what the consensus is. I think they're very close. I guess McKenna has the momentum, but a good SHL playoffs from Ivar and maybe IIHF Worlds could make it really close. We did see a few years ago Yuri Slavkovsky exploded on the Olympic scene and at the World Championships, which propelled him to number 1 over Shane Wright. Could we see the same out of Stenberg? A dominating playoffs and some good international hockey can push him over the edge. He already has the number 1 consolidated ranking on a lot of prospects lists. So, at the end of the day, this Ivar Stenberg update is a pretty notable one. It's a big checkpoint heading into the draft season and the 2026 NHL Draft itself. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Stenberg concluding his season here? I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.